Chapter 17, Nutrition During the Growing Years, Screencast 2. Now, this screencast is focusing on the actual nutrient need for growth, looking at child to early adulthood. Now, this bar graph here is a little confusing, so I want to take some time to kind of break down what it is that we're looking at here. Along the x-axis, what we're actually seeing is a number of nutrients. So we've got energy, protein, vitamin A, and so on. So keep that in mind. The orange bars, those are reflective of a 4-month-old infant. The blue bars are reflective of a 5-year-old child. The pinkish bars, a 16-year-old male teenager, and the green is the reference for an adult male, 19 years. So that's what we're comparing to. So we're comparing the nutrient needs of these various ages to that of a 19-year-old male. Now, all of the changes that occur during the growing years influence energy and nutrient intakes and needs, but growth rate is going to have the biggest impact. The faster the growth rate, the greater the nutrient and caloric need per pound of body weight. So this is another thing that we want to make sure that we're looking at. We're talking about per pound of body weight. Therefore, the greatest needs pound for pound are going to occur during infancy when growth is at its peak. Although calorie and nutrient needs per pound of body weight steadily decline after infancy, the total quantity of calories and nutrients needed rise throughout childhood because the body's growing larger. Now, during puberty, nutrient needs like growth rate increase sharply, and we're also going to start to see a difference in gender requirements, and they're going to become more obvious. The total quantities of nutrients and calories required are greater during adolescence than any other time except for pregnancy and lactation. Males require more of many nutrients than females do because males are larger, develop more muscle mass and bone density, and they actually have a longer, more intense growth period. So once again, growth is going to be that primary determinant of nutrient need, and we can see that reflected in this particular diagram. The first one that we're going to talk about is overall energy intake. Infants and toddlers' caloric needs are 2 to 4 times greater than that of adults pound for pound. And this is due to the rapid growth they are experiencing during this time frame, also a very high metabolic rate and large surface area. Newborns need 50 calories per pound per day. After 2 to 3 months, this can drop down to 40 calories per pound per day. By the age of 5, 32 calories per pound per day, and half of this by the age 15. The next nutrient that we want to talk about is protein. Now, protein is especially necessary for growth. The infant need is 1.5 grams per kilogram per day, and that's necessary to support the rapid growth of tissue that's going on during infancy. During childhood and adolescence, protein needs per pound of body weight are about 20 to 40% higher than that for adults. Children 1 to 3 years, 1.1 grams per kilogram per day. Older children, this drops down to about 0.95 grams per kilogram per day. But remember how important protein is, and protein deficiencies during these time periods of growth can have lifelong consequences. Fat is going to be the next nutrient. Total fat should account for 40 to 55% of a baby's caloric intake. They need about 5 grams of essential fatty acids per day, and that will be through the teen years. And that's necessary because it helps to develop eyes and the nervous system during infancy. Dietary recommendations to reduce the risk of disease do not apply to children under the age of 2. After 5 years of age, children should be getting about 30 to 35% of their total caloric intake from fat. Carbohydrates. For infants, lactose will be the primary carbohydrate. Starch intake will increase when solid foods are introduced. Children should increase starch intake to about 50% of total caloric intake, but the emphasis here is limiting the intake of simple sugars. Adequate intake for fiber after age 1 is about 14 grams per 1,000 calories eaten. Now, a diet high in fiber is not recommended because of the risk of inadequate intake of calories and also the binding of fiber to minerals and blocking of absorption. Water. Babies' need for water per pound of body weight is greater than that for older humans. And these are the primary reasons why. Babies have a greater surface area. Proportionately, they have more body water. The turnover rate is significantly greater, about 7 times faster than what we see in adults. That high metabolic rate is going to produce a lot more waste. Kidneys are not nearly as efficient in an infant, and the need is usually met by breast milk or formula. Now, too much water can actually lead to water intoxication. So supplemental fluid should be limited to about 4 ounces per day. So now let's take a look at vitamins and minerals. The first mineral that we're going to take a look at is iron. Iron is going to be needed to prevent iron deficiency anemia. Healthy full-term babies are born with a 4 to 6 month supply of iron. Solid foods are going to be needed to supply extra iron starting at 6 months. Children 1 to 2 years of age and teens are especially vulnerable to iron deficiency anemia. If deficiency develops, iron supplements should be used, but only under a physician's guidance. Potassium. A diet rich in fruits and vegetables will help children and teens meet the potassium requirement. Calcium. Of course, this is going to be really critical for the formation of strong bones. And the need for calcium rises sharply at age 9, and this continues through adolescence. Majority of bone formation occurs between 9 and 18 years of age. Inadequate intake of calcium may lead to decreases in bone density and increase the risk potentially for osteoporosis later in life. Fluoride. Supplements are going to be recommended between 6 months and 16 years if drinking water is low in fluoride. Zinc. If they're not getting enough zinc, this may impair growth. Something that may take care of this is a fortified breakfast cereal. Folate. Diets of older children and teens are low, and this is due to the low intake of vegetables. And a low intake of folate may actually impair growth. Vitamin D. This is a vitamin, fat soluble, that's critical for bone development. Lack of vitamin D will lead to bone deformities, such as rickets. Now, sunlight can provide ample amounts of vitamin D. Infant formula supply vitamin D to infants and still recommended to supplement. Vitamin K. Infants are at risk of a deficiency. There are little or no stores and no vitamin K producing bacteria in infants. So it is recommended that at birth they receive a dose of vitamin K. Now, when we look overall, supplements are not recommended unless children and teens have some problems. Examples would be they're poor eaters, they're vegan, pregnancy, the need to manage obesity, they're deprived, neglected, or abused. Now, there are some special circumstances when vitamins and minerals or supplements are going to be necessary. We already kind of addressed vitamin K for newborns, iron supplement for breastfed babies, vitamin B12 for breastfed babies of vegan mothers, vitamin D for infants, and fluoride if the local water supply does not have fluoride added.